So this spring we bought a pop-up camper, so I'm getting my car set up to tow it. I've got the hitch already installed. That was pretty straightforward, and I'm working on now getting a brake controller and trailer light hooked up. If you have a Mitsubishi Outlander Sport, like this is, when you take out those foam things, you're supposed to take out these screws that are holding it down with big washers. I forgot to do that the first time, and the foam just broke, so now mine are easy remove ones. I actually have the basic trailer light hookup installed already, but I'll show you what I did to get that installed. First I took, well, I followed the instructions, but you have to take off these plastic pieces here, just make them loose so you can get to the tail light connectors. And then I'll show you over here. This one's easier to see. So once you have these panels loosened up, first you pop off this one here, and then you loosen up the panels, and you sneak the wires back, and these tail lights just pop off, and then this grommet comes out here. And there's a T connector, so one end goes into your trailer light controller, one end goes here, the one end goes back out to this box here. So in here there's a whole nother connector. So you can maybe fish all the connections through from the backside, but it's really tight in there, so it's a lot easier if you just pull the wires through that way to do the connection. Once you get both sides hooked up, they run into this flasher booster circuit here. That just boosts the power coming out of your flasher circuit, so it doesn't get messed up running the extra trailer lights. And that needs a power connection run from the battery, so this wire runs all the way up to the battery, and then you'll have your 4-pin connector that would hook onto your trailer. Now my trailer has trailer brakes, my pop-up, so I'm gonna run a brake controller and do some other wiring on that. So, but this is now set up to run a regular trailer with just a flat 4 connector. I'm working on wiring up my brake controller for my car. This wire runs back up to the battery, to a fuse up there, and this one runs back to the flasher controller. They used to be just spliced together, but since I want to install the brake controller, that needs 12 volts, so I'll be able to just tap into here. I don't have a good shot of it, but I did have to drill a hole in the firewall to run the wires through. I picked a spot where another large group of wires were going through so I could locate on both sides, so I knew I wasn't going to drill into something important, and I drilled through right next to the other big bundle and put in a grommet and got the wires run through. So I made this Y connector. I'll get that crimped in place, and then I'll get power running both to this and out to the rear brakes. And the 12 gauge wire should be able to handle the current perfectly fine. After I made this, I realized that the Y connector here with only one fuse isn't the best option, because if there's a short in the trailer lights, you lose brakes, and if there's a short in the brakes and it blows the fuse, you lose your lights. So having 2 fuses would be better, but this should be perfectly fine with one properly sized fuse. So I was able to get this wire, the ground, connected up to one of the mounting screws for the brake pedal. It's grounded, so now the trailer controller is mounted right here. It's not the perfect spot because I can't quite see it while I'm driving, but should be fine. It's not like I'm hauling a bunch of stuff with this where I really need a trailer controller. It's just because the pop-up trailer has trailer brakes. I figured I'd go the extra mile and get a trailer brake controller installed. Now we need to run this blue wire all the way to the back so I can so this will actually be the wire that activates the brakes, and then also this one needs to hook up to the stoplight switch, the brake light switch. So to reach in and get to see which wire I need to connect to in that brake light switch way down in there, I'm using a piece of welding rod attached to the test light. So if I don't have enough hands to show you, but when I push on the brakes, the light comes on, so I know that that's the wire I need to attach to. I'll get the plug out and I'll show you. Well, you can see if you happen to have one of these. It is from the little tab, the lower right one, if you're looking at it from this perspective. To attach into the stoplight circuit, I'm using one of these little doohickeys. They're not the greatest. They sort of, this little metal thing in the middle slides down and cuts through the insulation and makes contact, and then you can stuff in a wire right there too. So, but it's a really convenient way, so you don't have to cut wires. So hopefully this works. It's a real pain in the neck running the wire between the front and rear seats. I was able to snake this piece of wire through, and I'm going to tape on my electrical wire. This is just solid TIG welding wire, and I tape my electrical wire to there and pull it through. It's a real pain. I already did one. I probably should have done both at the same time, but I didn't realize that I needed to run a whole separate wire back there. So anyways, back to work. So this is all I'm going to get to today. This is a rat's nest of wires back here, but it should be, everything should be all set. Well, actually, I just realized I need to hook up my ground wire, but after I hook up the ground wire, everything's all set for the trailer brakes. Obviously, I need to mount this to the hitch and get these wires out somehow. I think I'm going to have to drill a hole here to feed them out. I'm going to see if there's a good way of getting like a waterproof connector or some better system than just a giant hole with the wires coming through it. So I'm going to look into that. But in the meantime, I can, temporarily run these out and see if the trailer brakes on the pop-up actually work. So I'm going to get this tidied up somewhat and head back home for supper.